Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Workwell's first ever virtual Lunch and Learn. I'm Miranda Stewart, General Manager of the Workwell, and we also have William Hatfield, our Community Manager, helping me host this insightful webinar. So for today's webinar, we have Karen Sharp from the Lone Star College Small Business Development Center, also known as SBDC. She is going to be presenting on how to pivot your business for survival. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please post those in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. And at the end of the presentation, William's going to lead a Q&A session with Karen to ask the questions posted. If we don't end up getting to a question you asked, I will follow up with you via an email after I've talked to Karen about your question. I'm going to post some links in the chat box right now. Those few links in the chat I've posted so you can connect with Karen via email, connect with the Workwell for any upcoming events, and then also visit the SBDC website. So those are there just for easy access. This session is also going to be recorded and posted and sent to you by the end of the week. So with all that being said, Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and honored to be included in your first Lunch and Learn at Workwell. I was talking with Miranda and William in advance. William and I have known each other for 17 years now, and so this is really an exciting thing to be part of this. Today, I'm going to be talking about, what the SBDC is, what we do, and how we help you. And then I am also going to share some information about how you can pivot your business. And Miranda, as we talked before the session, I said I might have some issues with my dogs. And one of them is really whining downstairs. So what I want to do, so I'm not distracted with his continual whining because he's not in his seat, is run downstairs and put my dog where he wants to go. He's blind, he can't get up on the couch. Put him on the couch and I'll be right back, okay?
Go for it, go for it.
Part of doing it from home.
No, I love it. I've been a part of multiple webinars. I was mentioning that to Karen and William earlier, and we have had everything from panelists having their kids sticking chicken nuggets in their face, to dogs running in, to Amazon deliveries being delivered, and you can hear the Ring doorbell. So we understand and we get it.
Yes, so you all know I have a miniature and a toy poodle, and Amazon is supposed to be delivering something today, and they bark loudly. So I'm just hoping they don't deliver while I'm talking. All right, let me talk a little bit about the Small Business Development Center, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. So the Small Business Development Center is here. We're open. We're available to work with you to help you build, start, grow your businesses, and handle your crises that you're dealing with today. Just to let you know a little bit about us, we are the premier business advising program in the North Houston and South Montgomery County areas. Our services are at no charge. And we also provide training, tools, resources. We have been in place since 1965. And we're part of the Texas Gulf Coast Small Business Development Center network that has 14 centers and serves 32 counties. In addition, we're part of the America's Small Business Development Centers, which is around the nation. And we've also expanded through governmental relations with Mexico, Honduras. There are other SBDCs that are fostered by those organizations in those countries using our same model. This gives you a bit of a Lone Star College. I always like to let you know about our host institution. We serve 11 school districts. We have 99,000 students, 2 million population, and we cover 1,400 square miles. In this system, I cover the Sci-Fair area, which is basically everything that the Sci-Fair Chamber covers, which is Sci-Fair ISD. We have a lot of growth in this community. We have 4 advisors and a director who cover the other, I don't know, 1,200 square miles. But we have quite a bit of small businesses in our footprint whom we've been helping since 1985 at Lone Star College. To give you an idea about our team, we have industry experience in many areas. We just added a new person who also has a background in finance and insurance, financial products. Functional experience. Now, when I'm talking about experiences, we've all worked before, and many of us, almost I think 4 of the 5 of us, have owned our own businesses. So this gives you an idea of the areas in which we've operated as business owners and as employees. We have over 50 years of collective business ownership on our team. And I think that's really important because we've been there and we know where you are and how you're dealing, you know, what sort of problems you're facing, because we're facing them as well, or we have. And we are also certified global business professionals, which means that we're ready to help you with your global needs, importing, exporting, and how to go about that. Maybe you want to expand that part of your business, so we can talk about that. We handle growth strategies. I'm working right now with somebody who's wanting to buy a business. I have another client who's trying to sell. I do a lot of business plan analysis and review. I help people write their business plans. We don't write them, we help you get prepared. And that's primarily for the lending scenario, SBA guaranteed loans. Also, I work with the business model canvas. So I use that tool a lot with my clients, which helps them to model and strategically build their businesses. And so that's something that I work with primarily. Bottom line performance, that is what so many people are dealing with right now. How do we increase that bottom line? How do we get through this situation? Problem solving and decision making. We help with financing. We don't lend, but we help you be able to get financing for your business. Developing marketing plans, strategies, and we also offer seminars and training. Historically, I've been offering seminars with the Cy-Fair Houston Chamber. I don't know if they're on today, but I don't know what those are going to look like, but we've been doing those for 10 years now, and those are free for the community members. We are a partner resource to the Small Business Administration. We are funded by the SBA. It's a grant appropriated by Congress, managed by the Small Business Administration. The grant goes to University of Houston, who has the Houston SBD Center and the region office down there. And then there are 14 centers that feed into the U of H network. We also help you with government procurement. So if you're interested in certifications of women-owned business, minority-owned business, those sort of certifications that help you gain government contracts or even corporation contracts, we help you with that. And we have an incredible research library that can help you with marketing resources, demographics, traffic analysis, how to bring a tech product to market, all sorts of things we have available to you. All of this is at no charge. We also provide a service provider list. Those are people that we know. We don't recommend anybody. We can't, as we're a government agency, but we will provide a list of certain agencies that can help you with your business. And we work with area chambers, EDPs, EDCs, et cetera. And we also at Lone Star College have the North Houston Economic Development Center with a vast amount of research available for you and assistance. We work a lot with companies that are moving to this area, that sort of thing. So this gives you some contact information for the SBDC and then me and my number. So if you want to get in touch with the SBDC for advising, or if you want to advise with me, just give me a shout. There's some forms to complete. There's no charge for our services. So I would look forward to working with you there. Now ignore that Q&A. What I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen now and start talking. Now that you know a bit about who I am and where I'm from, maybe I should give you a little bit of my resume, so I think that might be helpful. As you're listening, I earned my bachelor's in systems analysis at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. Shell Oil hired me out of Miami, and I moved down to here. And I was a programmer analyst, systems analyst. I went into management and IT and moved into software sales. I was part of the sales team that introduced a database back in the 80s called Paradox, which was an exciting thing. And I also sold at BMC Software. Many of you know that company. I started my own business in '97, which is where I got to know William. He was a client, and I'm still in business. I don't promote that business here, but just so you know that I'm dealing with some of the issues that you're dealing with as well in my off time when I'm not working with the SBDC. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting your business. I myself had to do a lot of research on this because it's not easy to pivot. It's not, we've been doing the same thing over and over again. We're small business owners. We barely have enough time in the day, and now we get hit with COVID and the other things that are going on in our country right now, which has affected business. Some of us are fine. Some of us are not. Many of us are not. So what can we do? And I've come up with a lot of ideas. I've done a lot of research. And let's just talk about some things. And I'm open to, well, I can't really do interaction, can I? I'm such an interactive speaker normally, so let's just go and I'll share, and then we can do some Q&A maybe. I've got plenty of time, so I'm excited. Let's talk. Opening your business back up again. Do you have sufficient PPE for your business? If you're a solopreneur and you're working out of your home, that doesn't necessarily apply for you. But William, would you do me a favor? Your door's open and people walk back and forth, and I'm like looking. Oh, it can't. That's just a window. Got it. Okay, no problem. I'll just ignore. Okay, supply chains. You're getting back into business. Are your suppliers open? If they're not open, what do you have alternate suppliers? Now might be a time also to negotiate some pricing with your suppliers. They're used to working and providing services and products in a vibrant economy. We were doing pretty well before all this happened, but now they're wanting business too. So look for better prices. See if you can cut some costs in your supply chain, and also just make sure they're all open. And if you do have a brick and mortar, a place where your employees come or clients come, then make sure you have PPE for your employees. Hand sanitizer, masks, face shields if you're in the medical dental industry, that sort of thing. You all know that already because you've been told that from your associations, your state associations. Make sure you're communicating well with your employees. This is a very tough time for you, and it's really scary for your employees. So communicate with them. I'm a true advocate of authenticity. So just let them know how things are going and what you need from them, and make sure you're available to them and aware that they're dealing with a lot of stress and uncertainty as well. One of the beautiful things that Lone Star College has done has been, there's an outreach to each employee to make sure that they're okay. And I have so appreciated that. And they have assured us that our jobs are still there. And that has enabled me to continue to work and not be distracted from those stresses. So communicate with your employees. Now's also a time for you to revisit the foundation of your business. I did that in my own business. There were several things that I needed to implement. And with everything slowing down, I was able to get some things done. So now I'm more efficient. Efficiency is also a very important thing right now. Look at your processes and your procedures. Have you written them down? If an employee gets sick, are you able to hand a sheet of paper or a document to a new hire so that they know what is to be expected is everything in your employees' heads and not documented. So make sure you're looking at documenting all the positions and the jobs in your business. So that's a good thing to do when you're slow. Mainstreet.org has some really interesting guidelines. You can go to their website and guidelines about reopening. I'm not going to go through them, but I wanted to let you know about that. It's mainstreet.org. So now let's talk about cash flow. Ouch. PPP, gosh, PPP and PPE. PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan or Paycheck Protection Program, whatever it's called, but PPP has been available through the banks. It's still available through June 30th. So if you are in need of payroll assistance, go to your bank. And if your bank is one of the big ones, they may have hit their quota. So go to a smaller community bank and get that application in before June 30th. The legislation was just passed this last week that now you no longer have just 8 weeks to spend the money, you have 24 weeks to spend the money and be eligible for forgiveness. So that's a big relief. There are many, I'm not going to go into all of the PPP forgiveness here, but you can get onto the University of Houston's SBDC website, or no, better yet, go to the SBA Houston District website. And they have on the left side of their page something called resource guide, resources, business resources, something like that. And in there, they'll say their weekly webinar. Click on that link and you can see all the webinars that are coming straight out of the SBA. And they're doing these live webinars at least once a day, or were last week, on PPP forgiveness. The schedule changes, but you can definitely plug in. And the University of Houston SBDC has Julie Gilmer, a CPA, doing webinars a couple of times a week about, going through the process and the application. So I won't spend time doing that. Just avail yourself of those resources. Those are at no charge to you. Cash flow still, chop expenses. What are you spending money on that you don't need to spend money on? And you will need to divert, if you're brick and mortar, you're going to need to divert some resources to PPE. Your revenues are down, and so you've got to chop expenses. What can you get rid of? And then grow revenue. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Set goals. Set goals for your employees, set goals for yourself, measure against those goals, and pivot. If something isn't working, it's time to get new ideas in. Do something different. Leadership is really important right now. If you have employees, or even if you don't, leading by example, being positive, being authentic, communicating can make a world of difference to the people around you, your clients and your employees. Sales, what are you doing with your selling model and marketing? Social media is generally by and large at no charge to you, unless you do some sort of Facebook ad or ads that are to social media platforms. But are you using the social media tools? Avail yourself of some courses if you don't know how to prospect on social media. Determine where your prospects are most likely visiting. What sites are they visiting? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? What's the demographic of your product or service? And if you don't know, what you might not know, contact me. I can help you with that to determine the profile. What are their needs? What do they need, and how can you fill that need? Prospect, prospect, prospect. Some of your clients, if you're B2B or even B2C, your clients don't have that much money right now. So we need more clients, or we need to sell more things to existing clients, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Operations, look at all of your operations. Are you being efficient? Are you burdening your employees with over a bunch of administrative work? And can you relax a little bit and let them go out and get their job done. Be creative, do some different new things. Okay, so one of the articles that I'm going to kind of go over, I'm going to be honest, this is not my content, but I thought this was just beautiful. It's in business.com. And the article is called Pivoting Your Business in Response to COVID-19. I'm going to go over it because this summarizes a lot of what I've been looking at, considering, thinking about, hearing on webinars. So let's talk about that just for a little bit. Pivoting. What can you do to pivot your business so that you can increase your cash flow, so that you can get more clients, sell more to existing clients? So let's talk a little bit about what a pivot is. A pivot would be something like Gap, who transferred some of their manufacturing facilities to producing face masks. I do branded solutions. So all of the branded stuff, I can't sell to my clients or anything, but I share this as an example. My product mix went greatly to PPE. So, you know, how can we source out products that our clients need and need to spend money on right now? What can you do to shift? You might need to shift your product offering, and you might need to shift to whom you're talking. So who are you prospecting? So let's say, for example, if you have a business and your primary client is the ISD, what can you do to maybe pivot your offering to homeschoolers, to parents who can now pay you instead of the ISD? If you're, I don't want to get into too much thinking. I'm thinking about actual clients that I've been speaking with. So hospitals are in great need of PPE. So if you can access it, sell it. I know a guy who's in my industry, and he turned around and found a supplier of hand sanitizer. Now he's not just a distributor of branded products, but he's also now a supplier. So what can you do that's creative? What relationships do you have that you can pivot those relationships and turn those into a money producing machine for you? So I know, where were they? I think they're in 1960, but it was a alcohol distillery or a brewery. I don't know what business it was, but I saw it on social media. And they started manufacturing hand sanitizer. So look at what the demands are now, and we have to shift. And this isn't any different than other shifts in the economy. For example, when I was a systems analyst, mainframes were the thing, and then the PCs came in and the whole industry shifted. So those manufacturers of software who developed software for mainframes, and BMC was one of them, when the economy shifted to PCs, distributed stations, they had to shift their software. So this isn't any different than anything that's ever happened in our economy, except that it's happening to all industries all at once and so quickly. But the businesses who are able to pivot are the ones that survive. So think about ways that you can pivot and meet needs, look for needs and problems that are like unmet needs, things that are happening, and maybe you can fill that gap. Maybe you can be the person. There was some company that connected hospitals with sources for ventilators through a mobile app. It was not their business line, but they know how to do it, and they're fulfilling that unmet need. So think about those things. Productize your offerings. For example, yoga studios, Pilates studios, they productize their offerings. So it used to be you'd go into the studio. Well, now they're selling subscriptions to an online workout at home offering. if you're a service-oriented business, can you somehow turn it into a subscription-based business? Where maybe you're doing videos, maybe you're doing webinars, maybe, I don't know, every business is different, but how can you turn it into a product that you can sell? I'm talking about service-oriented businesses here. Look at solutions. The trucking companies modified their business model to do more food transport during the demand. So look at the problems out there and see what, is there something out there that you can do, that you can help with? Another thing that I think is really important is to reach out to your customers, even if you think they're not buying, and talk. Just say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Before you go in and say, what can I sell to you? But another thing you can do with prospects, I heard this somewhere and I thought this was really kind of interesting, is say, look, give me an invoice of anything you're buying right now and I'll offer you, I will provide it at 20% discount if possible. And I want to win you on price and keep you on service. Somebody who did that and she converted about $100,000 deal to herself. So it was 80,000 and now she's got the client. So if you really excel in service, that might be something you could do to get your foot in somewhere now, because companies are needing to reduce costs. So maybe you can get in that way. Review your supply chain. Is there something you can do where it can be faster? Maybe you can provide products faster. I had a situation with masks I needed to order, and I had to look for newer suppliers because they were just too expensive and too long to get. And I found an importer and they're beautiful. They're great masks. The client loved them. And they did it faster. They did it at a quarter the price of what I can get it for anywhere else. And it was a beautiful material that's comfortable. How many of you have been itching your nose? You get those masks on and you're like, I'm always doing this, So these don't do that. And so I was able to look at my supply chain and see, okay, how can I do this differently? So what else can you do to shift your supply chain? Work with your partners. Your vendors might be a great source to help you establish new prospects. Build those relationships. And if you have assets that are not really bringing you a lot of revenue right now, repurpose them into something that will, or try to get rid of them. Get rid of old things that are really no longer serving you. Maybe you can sell them, maybe at a reduced rate, but it is cash flow as well. Look at your customers. We already talked about new clients, prospecting. Who needs your services? Can you modify your services to fit a different market? And we can talk about that in a session if that's, if you need assistance with that. And actually, I'm going to interject right now because I had this idea today when I was putting this webinar together. And I realized that coming up with ideas to pivot is really hard by myself. So, and I would imagine that's the same for you. Maybe we can put together a Zoom webinar feature where we have business owners coming together and sharing their businesses and doing a brainstorm session where others can come through and say, well, have you thought about this? Maybe there's a demand here. You can pivot and do it this way. It's something that I came up with. I talked with my director about it. He likes the idea. So we're considering putting something like that together. If you would please let Miranda or William know if you would be interested in something like that. That would be helpful for us to know if there's a demand for something like that. We can put it together. I just need to know whether people would want to do that and then logistically how we would do it. But as I was putting all this together, I realized these are hard things to do alone. I've learned so much from other people. I've gotten so many ideas from other people. So I'd like to think I'm that creative, but I'm not entirely that creative. So it's really helpful for me to listen to others and get their ideas. So maybe we can facilitate that. I hope so. So those are some ideas that you need to, I put together for you to be considering doing, to pivot your business, to look at your business in a new way, to be a leader, to be more efficient, and grow. And I'm here at the SBDC. I really love engagement. I'm not really good at just talking and talking forever. So William, if you're ready, you can go back on your video, and thank you for muting out your video so that I wasn't watching everybody walk on here. It was just distracting. So let's take some Q&A, and let's see what sort of ideas we can come up with and what questions that need to be answered.
All right, terrific. So Karen, thank you very much for your presentation. Some really great thoughts and some great ideas and some areas to kind of start this entire concept of like pivoting your business to really not only directly handle what's going on right now with the unique and unprecedented times that we have, but also, you know, probably some great ideas to just strengthen your business moving forward as we hopefully start to settle into a new normal. So I had a couple of questions here initially that I wanted to ask you. You'd mentioned the how the SBDC is funded and the resources with SBA that you guys have. Did you guys receive any additional grants or funding to help meet what would be expected to be an increased demand for your services?
We did. And we are hiring now at the University of Houston office, and there are several SBDCs around the country that are doing this, hiring subject matter experts to provide expertise to our clients. We have, for example, a restaurant expert or a marketing, social media expert, SEO expert, that sort of thing. We are general business advisors. You know, I have a master's in business. I've owned a business. I'm a general business advisor. I can come up with some really great ideas sometimes, and sometimes I'm just not that great. But we're bringing in some experts who have experience. That's the goal. Yes, we were funded. We also are bringing in some more resources to assist our clients. One is the Growth Wheel system, which we had a few years ago. And I really enjoyed working with that system with my clients, and it looks like we'll be getting that back. So those funds were received, and now they're in the process of staffing up. So yes.
Terrific. That's good. I would think that you probably have had an increased demand for your services and are meeting with business owners and entrepreneurs that are, you know, trying to kind of find their way through this entire situation like we all are.
Right.
What are some of the unique challenges that you guys have been presented with that are probably just an absolute direct result of coronavirus and COVID-19 and how it's changed the business environment?
People, the clients, my clients have had their clients stop procuring services altogether. Whether in many industries, because not only do we have COVID in Houston, but we also have oil and gas, you know, slow down. So oil and gas companies aren't buying. So that's really what's hitting. And I had a client who had a note called right in the middle of all of this. So that's hard. The PPP and the EIDL loans have been helpful to those who've been able to get them, but there's a lot of need out there. So a lot of it, William, right now is cash flow, and especially those ones whose clients are just not buying, they're having to pivot. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. And so with regards to cash flow and services like that, one of the questions we have is, you know, so how are your services offered? I believe that you said that, you know, free services to business owners. So how does that consultation work? Is this done in some kind of, you know, specific set of meetings that you have over the course of time? Are these one-off types of meetings? How do your services work exactly?
Well, they're both one-off or they can be extended. Usually extended. So to work with us, there are some forms that need to be completed. We gather demographic information about the business owner. We work with the business owners only, or the leadership team, but the business owner is the one who signs the agreement with us. And so once those forms are completed, we set up appointments, and now they're being conducted completely online. And so we Zoom and we meet. Every client is completely different. I don't have a training curriculum that I go through. Every client is different. So in any one day, I may be speaking with somebody who's opening an accounting business, or somebody who's opening a dry cleaners, or somebody who's did a KFC. I had that recently, another person buying the family business. So, and then I have people who call our existing clients, you know, what do I do now? This is the situation, do you have any ideas? So it runs the gamut of, and so every hour of advising is completely different. It's custom tailored to the client.
Okay, well, that was going to kind of answer, I think, my next question is, you know, what areas of business services are typically the most requested of the SBDC? Are we talking financial, marketing, operations? It sounds like the uniqueness of what you provide each service or each company runs the gamut of whatever that company does. So it doesn't sound like you guys specialize in any one particular area of business consultation. Is that correct?
Right, no, we're general. So we cover the gamut.
Okay. Can business owners utilize their business insurance in any way? And if so, how could they do that during this time? Have there been allowances that are being provided or offered?
I have heard now, I am not an insurance agent or an insurance specialist. So I've heard both sides. I think you'd have to contact your individual insurance agency. I've heard that pandemics are not covered, and I've also heard that they are. And I'm not an insurance person, so that's a really good question. And if they want, I can contact an insurance agent and get back with them about that. But I would suggest, if you have insurance, you know, read your policy and see what's excluded.
Very good. Earlier on, you were talking about you really can't do it on your own. You know, you've learned so much from talking to others and consulting and meeting in groups. So that leads to my next question. I mean, where can you find, you were talking about expanding your service offerings and looking for new areas where there's demand. Where can you find opportunities to bid for new services that companies might need as a result of COVID? I mean, like, you know, you mentioned the school district. Is there a resource or some place where people can say, oh, hey, there's a need for this service, there's a need for that service, as part of procurement processes or requests for bids? Are there resources that we can find those opportunities?
Okay, that was a loaded question. Bids, there's all sorts of resources where you can access bids that are available. I am not a lover of bids, primarily because they're generally lowest price wins. If that's your market and that's how you operate, then fine. I think it's like a shotgun approach to building your business. I prefer looking at contacting the procurement people or the managers, the decision makers, sitting down and having a conversation with them. Something that I use in selling is I'll call somebody and I think they're a prospect, and I'll say, look, you know, I tell them who I am. I'd like to be able to sit down with you for a few minutes, see if there's an opportunity for us to do business together. I don't know if we're going to be a fit, but I would love to be able to sit down and see. I'm a real non-confrontational salesperson. I'm not an aggressive salesperson. That works for my personality. That's not necessarily what somebody else would do. But we can't sell unless you have a value. And we don't know what our value is in some businesses. I'm not talking about grocery. All of a sudden I'm getting a distraction in here. Wait a minute, this doesn't count for everything. But if I'm doing in my business, I can speak about that I have to have a value to that client. They have to have a problem that I can fix, a need that I can handle, a want that I can deliver. And unless I know what the problem is or the need or the want, I am unable to communicate my value. So in my type of selling, I need to determine what the problems are of that client before I start talking about what I can deliver. Now that is different than maybe a grocery store or a Walgreens. I mean, people pretty much know what they're going in, but I don't think I'm talking to those people on this webinar. I think we're talking to business owners who need to sell their services. And the best way that I know how to do that is to make sure you truly understand the problems, the needs, and the wants of your prospect and not assume them, and then demonstrate how I can meet those needs through my offerings. I hope that answers that question.
I think it does. I appreciate that feedback. For any of our attendees to the webinar, I'm encouraging, we do have a few more minutes for some additional questions. So please feel free to place them in the chat box, and I will pass those along to Karen and see if we can get an answer for you. One of the things that all of us have been dealing with, but I would think small business owners especially, is just the emotional toll of what's been going on the last few months. So what resources have you been recommending, or what resources do you guys have with the SBDC to help kind of address the emotional toll of all the uncertainty of, not only what's happened so far, but what's the future look like? I mean, how long are we going to potentially be having these social distancing rules that hurt a lot of small businesses that are service-oriented business and things like that? What kind of resources do you guys have for that type of war issue that people have right now dealing with COVID?
Well, we're the Small Business Development Center, and emotions, handling those situations, the emotions and the fears, the anxiety is not something that we specialize in. Having said that, I'll share what I do and what I've heard others have done. One is realize that we have today. Today I'm fine. And tomorrow I can worry about tomorrow. What can I do to prepare, to grow, to pivot, to help alleviate some of that risk, to mitigate some of that risk so that that risk is not in my mind? To not dwell on all the things that could happen that would be horrible, but to dwell on the possibilities of what could happen, and to be in a group of people who can support you. I am in a organization called Women Within. It's a nonprofit that supports women, and I meet with a group of women once a week to air anything. This is a confidential setting, just to air what I'm thinking, what my fears are, what my angst is. I look at my life just personally, this new analogy hit. It's like high tide and low tide. When it's low tide, you can add some junk into my life and I can handle it because the tide is low and I'm feeling fine. But once I start to build and it gets to high tide, that's when you add something and I can explode and I need to do whatever. Understand, are you a person who needs to be alone to recharge, or do you need to be with people? Take care of yourself. It's so important that, I eat well. I do my reformer Pilates now. I was working out at home. I play golf. And I sew. What are those things that you like to do? And make sure that you're allocating time to self-care. Because if your tide is high and you're not doing any self-care to kind of let that tide go back down, the stress can become unbearable. And my experience was that the stress can become paralyzing. So I talk with my clients about some things in this area. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but those do come up. Yes, how to handle the fear, how to handle the angst. And I always think it's today, make sure you're doing some sort of mindfulness is something too. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Mindfulness is easy. I did that today before I did this webinar because I'm always nervous before I talk. I'm always nervous. And I found myself getting nervous. My tide was getting up. And I thought, okay, so I did some mindfulness, meditation, yoga, self-care. We can't change what's happening, what's coming down the pike. So we might as well enjoy as much of it as we can on our way.
Thank you. So I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. And so I think my final question for me personally, Karen, is I know that before we started the webinar, you were talking about so many of your presentations, of which I've attended in the past, have been such give and take, not only between yourself and your specific attendee, but everybody that's in a room where you're giving a presentation. And a lot of the ideas that are bounced back and forth are actually ideas that are generated just from the give and take that you have in a group setting. So what have you been doing to kind of pivot how you are providing your services now that you're having to do things significantly more remotely like this, or virtually, or even just just dealing with more one-on-one consultations as opposed to the group settings that I think you really enjoy and thrive at?
I love the group stuff. And yet my job is one-on-one business advising. So really the difference is being able to do that in my home office here. Getting familiar with the technology. What angle do I look the best when I'm on Zoom? What colors to wear, those sort of things. But I have found that I'm able to connect with my clients via Zoom. This medium works really well. Do I miss certain cues of communication, those nonverbals? Yes. And when I'm advising clients, those nonverbals are really important because those nonverbals are telling me something that maybe the client isn't feeling comfortable letting me know. And I like to create a safe environment where my clients know that I care for them. Anything they say to me is confidential, and this is a no judgment zone. I have been there. I have struggled. I mean, William, when you and I met, my business was struggling. So I know, I know what that feels like. I've been there. It's hard. It is really, really hard. So I think I miss a little bit of that from the face-to-face meetings. So I've done that. I've utilized, this is my first webinar. I think maybe I could do some more. I'm intrigued about doing some sort of pivot discussion, creating some sort of seminars or webinars based upon that idea, as I think it's really timely. I think it meets a need, so it could have a value. So that's the same thing. It's like, how do we pivot the SBDC services to meet the current needs? That would be really helpful. And I've used a lot of blast email to keep my clients up to date with all that was going on, because I found that it was just too much. So I just started sending people information so that they would be up to date on all the changes, the new loans, how do you apply, how do you get it done, and all of that.
Very good. Well, I know, being a small business owner, that you can empathize with probably everybody that you meet with. So sort of like the kind of my final ending question to you, what kind of overriding, if you get one thing from the discussion we've had today, what would you like to have that be for our attendees?
That's a tough question. I would say, wow, I want to say something profound. I would say, get in the quiet. and sit with yourself, whether it's meditate, yoga, just mindfulness, whatever, and think about how you can be authentic, how you can be creative, and how you can be the ruler of your domain. I mean, you have everything that you need to be able to create something new. But it's got to come from those cells up there that are not really operating right now. So do what you can to try to listen to yourself, listen to experts, and grow. Look at the opportunities for growth right now. And I know those are hard words when there could be somebody here that's really in pain and really struggling financially. I have been there. And what I can say is reach out to somebody who's been there, who could listen. And even if that means calling me, do that. I'll listen. I've been there. I know what that's like. And sometimes just reaching out to somebody who understands and can listen with no judgment is huge.
That's great. Well, your organization and your group provides so many resources and services. So I do hope our small business attendees to the webinar today will take advantage of what you guys offer. And thank you for your time. I think Miranda is going to come in and kind of close us up.
Yes, absolutely. Real quick though, I didn't want to interrupt, but I do want to touch on the small business webinar with a panelist lineup of small business owners. Not sure if, I'm sure SBDC knows, but the Workwell is home to quite a few business owners, small business owners at that. So would love to follow up with you and see how we can partner together and make that happen, because that's a great idea, and it's getting perspective on all sorts of industries and how they're tailoring and pivoting, like you said, during this COVID pandemic. So I like that point, and I would love to touch base after this and follow up. But I do want to thank you so much, Karen, for your webinar and for hopping on and sharing your expertise. But that is it for this virtual Lunch and Learn. As a reminder for everyone that's on, or if you joined late or haven't already, I posted Karen's email and phone number in the chat box, as well as the SBDC website and the Workwell website, where you can find out about upcoming events. Hopefully this panelist webinar we can put on will be listed soon. So look in the chat box and grab that contact info. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you for the next webinar.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Karen.
Karen.
Y'all have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.